In my earlier video, I discussed a well-documented Facebook scam, and many of you have watched that video. But that is only one example. Over the years, many other scams have been reported involving Facebook users. So I thought it would be worthwhile to look at some of them more closely. Not just what happened, but how they worked, and what we can do to protect ourselves. For me and for many of us, Facebook is where we keep in touch with family, where we post photos of our children and grandchildren, where we find community groups, where we buy something secondhand, where we sell something we no longer need, where we discover local businesses, and sometimes where we reconnect with somebody we haven't spoken to for years. That familiarity is exactly what makes Facebook useful. But that familiarity can also create opportunities for scammers, because when we are on Facebook, we don't always feel as though we're entering a dangerous part of the internet. We're surrounded by familiar names, familiar photos, friends, family, local community groups. And that can lower our guard. So today, I want to tell you a story. Actually, I'm going to tell you several stories, because Facebook scams don't all look the same. Sometimes the scammer is selling something. Sometimes they're pretending to buy something from you. Sometimes they're pretending to be your friend. And sometimes they don't even need to steal your money immediately. They may be after something else first, something that will help them with the next stage of the scam. I'm Cynthia from Thia-W Computing Solutions. Thank you for joining me today for Facebook Scams, Stories and Beyond, Part 1. And before we get into our stories, I'd encourage you to stay with me until the end of this video, because understanding how these scams work is only part of what I want to share with you. After we've looked at all the stories, we'll talk about the practical things you can do to reduce your chances of becoming a victim. And that's important bit. And how you can become more resilient when something suspicious happens online. Because the goal isn't simply to recognize a scam after someone has lost money or an account has been compromised. The goal is to recognize when something isn't right, know what to do next, and make it much harder for the scam to succeed. There are so many different Facebook scams that I've decided to present this discussion in 3 parts. Across this series, we're going to look at at least 10 different scam scenarios. But I don't want to rush through them. So in part 1, we're going to concentrate on just 3. We'll look at how each scam works, what the scammer is actually trying to achieve, and most importantly, what we can do to avoid becoming the next victim. Before we begin, I'd like to mention that the scenarios I use in this video are fictionalized examples inspired by commonly reported scam techniques. The names, people, situations are used for illustration, but the methods we are going to talk about are very real. Our first story for today, Dad is going into a nursing home. Imagine you're scrolling through Facebook Marketplace one evening. You're not particularly looking for anything, you're just browsing. And then you see some furniture on sale. Among them is a beautiful dining table, solid timber, 6 chairs, exactly the style you've been wanting. And the price, $350. You think, oh, that's a bargain. So you click on the listing. The table looks genuine. It doesn't look like a stock image. The description says, selling Dad's furniture because he's going into a nursing home. Need to clear the house this week. And suddenly, this isn't just a furniture listing anymore. There's a story attached to it. You can imagine the family. Perhaps dad has been living in that house for many years. Perhaps his children are sorting through everything. Perhaps it's an emotional time. So instead of thinking only about the bargain, you start thinking about the people. You message the seller. Hi, is a dining table still available? A reply arrives very quickly. Yes, it is. We've had a lot of interest because we need everything gone before dad moves into the nursing home. You ask whether you can come and look at it tomorrow. And the answer comes back. You certainly can, but I can't promise it will still be available. Several people want it. That sounds reasonable. After all, it's a very good price. Then the seller says, if you'd like me to hold it for you, just send a $100 deposit and I'll mark it as sold. So now you're faced with a decision. Lose the table or risk $100. There's another psychological factor. You don't want to make things difficult for this family. They're already dealing with dad going into a nursing home. So perhaps send the deposit. After you send the deposit, the seller replies, thank you, I'll send you the address tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning arrives. No address. You message them. Nothing. You open Marketplace. The listing is gone. You try to open the seller's profile. Gone. Suddenly it dawned on you the story about dad, the nursing home, the urgent house clearance, the other interested buyers. There may never have been a dining table, and there may never have been a dad. Why that story works? What makes that scam interesting isn't the technology, it's the psychology. The scammer didn't simply say, cheap table, buy it. That would probably make us suspicious. Instead, the scammer created a believable reason for the low price. Dad is going into a nursing home. They created a believable reason for urgency. The house needs to be cleared. They created competition. Other people are interested. And then they made a financial request relatively small. Not $350, just $100. Enough to secure the item. That's important because scams often work by making the next decision feel reasonable. Now let's turn the situation around. This time you're not buying something, you're the seller. This is our second story. The buyer who has already paid. Let's say you're selling a couch for $500. The buyer says, I'm happy with the price, I'll send the money now. They ask for your email address. Then perhaps they say they're paying through Pay ID. Shortly afterwards, an email arrives. It looks like a payment notification. Perhaps it tells you that $500 has been sent. But then there's a problem. Your account supposedly can't accept the payment because it isn't a business account. The email says the buyer needs to send additional money to upgrade your account. Then you must refund that additional amount. So the buyer says, I've sent you another $500. Can you please send it back? You believe you're refunding their money. If you check your actual bank account, which you didn't, the original payment may never have arrived. The payment notification may be fake. The upgrade may be fake. The extra payment may be fake. But the money you sent back, that was real. The point isn't that every buyer mentioning Pay ID is suspicious. Pay ID itself is a legitimate payment method. The problem is the story built around the payment. You do not need to pay someone simply to receive money because a stranger tells you that your account requires an upgrade. And then email saying someone paid you isn't the same thing as money actually appearing in your bank account. So check the account yourself, not through a link in the email. Open your banking app independently. Look at the balance and transaction history. Has the money actually arrived? Because screenshots can be fabricated, emails can be fabricated, payment confirmations can be fabricated. Your bank account is what matters. There's another version of this buyer story. Let's say you're selling something for $300. The buyer supposedly sent $800. Then the buyer declares, "Oh no, I accidentally sent too much. Please send $500 back." Again, don't allow the urgency of somebody else's supposed mistake to override verification. Before refunding anything, confirm independently that the original money genuinely arrived. And even then, if the circumstances seem unusual, contact your financial institution before moving money around. A scammer wants you to concentrate on their emergency. You need to concentrate on the transaction. Story 3, is this you in this video? Now let's leave the marketplace. A message arrives through Messenger. It's from a friend, someone you actually know, it seems. Perhaps someone you've known for many years. Your friend says, "Is this you in this video?" There's a link. Your first reaction might be, "What video?" So you click. A Facebook looking page appears. It asks you to log in. You enter your email address. You enter your password. Nothing happens. Perhaps the page says the video is unavailable. You shrug and continue with your day. Except you may have just handed your Facebook credentials to somebody else. And now the scam becomes more dangerous because the attacker can potentially use your account to send the same message to your friends. And they are much more likely to trust the message because it appears to come from you. This is the power of account takeover. The criminal doesn't have to build trust from zero. They inherit yours. Meta itself warns users not to click suspicious links or attachments and provides procedures for reporting phishing and compromised accounts. Why Facebook is so useful to scammers. Now let's look at all three stories together. On the surface, they're very different scams. In our first story, the seller made up a story and advertised items for sale. It turned out there were really no items for sale. The dining table the buyer wanted to buy was non-existent. In our second story, the buyer declared he's paid but really didn't. He asked for the seller to refund his first payment, which didn't happen. And in our third, the victim responded to the attacker who pretended to be someone he knew and he gave away his information. Different situations, different approaches, different attack methods, but they have something important in common. The platform gives the scammer context, and context can make a scam much more believable. Think about Facebook Marketplace. When we see something for sale, we don't necessarily feel as though we're dealing with a completely anonymous person on the internet. There's often a name, a profile photograph. Perhaps we can click on the seller's profile. We might see how long they've been on Facebook. We may see photographs, friends, family. comments, perhaps even a location. All of those little details can create a feeling that we're dealing with the real person. And perhaps we are. But here's the important distinction. A real looking profile doesn't prove that the story we're being told is real. The person selling Dad's dining table can have a convincing profile and still be lying about Dad. The photographs of the furniture can look genuine, and the furniture may still not belong to the seller. The story can sound completely plausible and still have been created for one purpose: to get us to send that deposit. Now look at story 2. This time we are the seller. Someone sees a marketplace listing. They contact us. They want what we're selling. So the conversation already has a legitimate reason to exist. That's important because an unexpected email from a stranger saying, "Send me $500" would probably make most of us suspicious. But a marketplace buyer saying, "I've paid you for the couch," fits the situation. So when a payment notification arrives, we're psychologically prepared to believe it. The scammer is taking advantage of something we were already expecting to happen. And then we come to story 3. Is this you in this video? This one demonstrates perhaps the most powerful thing a scammer feels he gets on the platform: relationships. The message doesn't appear to come from a stranger. It appears to come from somebody we know, maybe someone we've known for years. Their name is there. Their photograph is there. Perhaps the message even appears inside an existing messenger conversation. So when they send us a link, we're not evaluating the link in isolation. We're evaluating it through the relationship. We think, "Oh, that's my friend." And that's precisely what the attacker is relying on. The criminal may not need us to trust them. They only need us to trust the identity they're hiding behind. And this is why Facebook can be so useful to scammers. It brings together several things that social engineering thrives on: identity, relationships, personal information, buying and selling, communication, and most importantly, trust. Your Facebook profile may reveal where you live, where you work, what organizations you're involved with, your hobbies, your family, your friends, perhaps your birthday, perhaps where you've recently traveled, perhaps the community groups you belong to. Not all of that information is dangerous by itself, but pieces of information can be combined. And the more a scammer understands about you, the easier it can become to create an approach that feels relevant. That's an important difference. A random message feels like spam, but a message that fits something happening in your life can feel genuine. And scammers don't necessarily need to break into Facebook systems to take advantage of that. Sometimes they simply use the environment Facebook has already created. They use the marketplace, they use the messaging, they use the profiles, they use the relationships, and they use the trust we naturally place in all of those things. So perhaps the question we should be asking isn't only, "Can I trust this Facebook account?" We should also ask, "Can I independently verify what this person is asking me to believe?" Because those are two very different questions. And as our three stories have demonstrated, sometimes the scam begins when we confuse one with the other. So how do we protect ourselves? We've seen three very different Facebook scams. Let's move away from how the scammers operate and talk about what we can do. Because awareness is useful, but awareness needs to lead to action. The good news is we don't need complicated cybersecurity tools to prevent many of these scams. Sometimes a few simple habits can make a very big difference. With story one, before you pay a marketplace deposit, where let's go back to that dining table. The seller tells us dad is going into a nursing home. The house needs to be cleared. Other people are interested. And if you really want the table, we need to send a deposit. My first recommendation is very simple. Don't allow the seller's story to determine how you pay. The story may be completely genuine, but whether dad is going into a nursing home or not doesn't change the precautions we should take. Where possible, inspect the item before paying for it. See the dining table. Make sure it exists. Make sure it's actually what was advertised. And don't send a deposit simply because someone tells you another buyer is waiting. If you miss the bargain, you miss the bargain. There will be another dining table. There will be another television. There will be another couch. Losing a bargain is better than losing your money. Also, take a few minutes to look at the seller's Facebook profile. How long has the account existed? Does the profile have a normal history? Does the marketplace activity look reasonable? And are there inconsistencies? An established-looking Facebook account doesn't guarantee that the seller is genuine. Accounts can be compromised. Profiles can contain false information. But if you see several warning signs together, pay attention to them. And be particularly cautious if the price is usually low. Ask yourself, why is this substantially cheaper than similar items? Sometimes there will be a legitimate explanation, but don't allow the explanation itself to become your evidence that the seller is genuine. Remember Dad's nursing home? The explanation for the bargain may actually be part of the scam. And if you're the seller, the marketplace risk goes both ways. Buyers can be targeted and sellers can be targeted too. So if you're selling something, don't assume that someone is trustworthy simply because they're willing to pay your asking price. Be cautious if a buyer immediately wants to move the conversation away from Facebook. Be cautious if they ask for information that doesn't appear necessary for the transaction. And don't let the buyer dictate an unnecessarily complicated payment process. A genuine transaction should not require you to jump through a series of strange financial hoops just to receive money for something you're selling. As we have learned in story 2, check your bank account, not their story. The buyer tells you, "I paid." Perhaps you receive an email. Perhaps they sent you a screenshot. Perhaps there's a very convincing payment notification. But none of those things is the most important piece of evidence. Your bank account is. Open your banking app yourself. Don't use a link sent by the buyer. Don't use a link in an unexpected payment email. Go directly to your bank and check. Has the money actually arrived? If it hasn't, then as far as you're concerned, you haven't been paid. A screenshot isn't money. An email isn't money. A message saying I've definitely paid you isn't money. And this is particularly important with the Pay ID scam scenario. Pay ID itself is a legitimate payment method. The scam is not Pay ID. The scam is the false story built around the payment. So if somebody tells you that you need to pay money to upgrade your Pay ID account, stop. If they tell you they've sent extra money and you now need to refund them, stop. If they pressure you because they supposedly made a mistake, stop. Check independently. And if you're unsure about what your bank requires, contact your bank directly. Don't ask the stranger who's supposedly sending you money to explain how your bank account works. Your bank can tell you that. And never refund money simply because someone sends you a screenshot showing that they supposedly transferred the money. Verify the transaction first. Now let's go back to story 3. Is this you in this video? This one requires a different defense because the scammer isn't asking you to send money. They're trying to make you click. So my recommendation here is treat unexpected login requests with suspicion. You click the link, a Facebook login page appears. Before entering anything, stop. Why am I being asked to log in? Where did this link come from? What website am I actually on? If you need to check your Facebook account, open Facebook yourself. Use the Facebook app. Use your bookmark. Or type the address yourself. Don't use an unexpected messenger link as your doorway into an important account. And if your friend sends you something unusual, verify it with them. Call them. Send them a separate message. Ask, did you just send me this? Because their Facebook account may have been compromised. The name may be right. The photograph may be right. The account may even be right. But the person controlling it may not be your friend. Protect your Facebook account as well. Story 3 gives us another important job. Protect the account itself. Use a unique password for Facebook. Don't reuse the same password you use for your email, banking, or other important accounts. Turn on two-factor authentication. That gives an attacker another barrier if your password is ever stolen. Review the security settings on your account. Look for devices or login sessions you don't recognize. And if Facebook tells you about a login you don't recognize, don't ignore it. Investigate it. Because remember what can happen if somebody takes over your account. The problem may no longer be limited to you. They can potentially start approaching your friends, using your identity. If you click the link and entered your password, don't wait to see what happens. Go directly to Facebook, change the compromised password. If you've used the same password anywhere else, change it there too. Secure your email account as well, particularly if it is connected to your Facebook account. Check your unfamiliar login sessions. Turn on two-factor authentication if you haven't already. And let your friends know if you believe your account may have been compromised. because the attacker may already be messaging them. The sooner they know, the less useful your stolen identity becomes to the scammer. 3 habits I want you to remember. If you forget everything else from today's video, remember these 3 things. Number 1, verify the item. If you're buying something, where practical, inspect it before handing money to a stranger. Don't let urgency force you into paying for something you haven't verified. Number 2, verify the money. If you're selling something, check your own bank account. Don't rely on screenshots, emails, or what the buyer tells you. Verify that the money is actually there. Number 3, verify the person. If somebody you know sends you an unexpected link or unusual request, don't assume that possession of their Facebook account proves you're talking to them. Verify through another channel. So, verify the item, verify the money, verify the person. 3 different scams, 3 very simple checks. And perhaps that's the most practical lesson from these stories. We don't always have to recognize exactly which scam we're dealing with. We don't have to understand every technical detail. Sometimes we simply need to stop accepting the evidence the scammer gives us and verify it for ourselves. Facebook connects billions of people. Family, friends, communities, businesses, buyers, sellers, and unfortunately, scammers. But I don't want you to leave this video frightened of every Facebook message. I want you to leave more aware of what the scammer is trying to make you feel. If you suddenly feel rushed, notice it. If you suddenly feel frightened, notice it. If an unbelievable bargain makes you excited, notice it. If somebody's sad story makes you feel that you shouldn't ask questions, notice it. Then give yourself permission to stop, check, verify, and walk away if something doesn't make sense. And if you know somebody who buys or sells things through Facebook Marketplace, especially a parent, grandparent, friend, or neighbor, please share this video with them. Better still, sit down with them over a cup of tea and talk about some of these stories. Because one day, they may see a dining table or a couch or a message from an old friend. Something from this conversation might make them stop for just a moment. That moment might be enough. I'm Cynthia from Thia-W Computing Solutions. Thank you for joining me today for Facebook scams, stories, and beyond. If you have a cybersecurity question, send it over to me and I'll answer it in a future video. If you found today's discussion helpful, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who's interested in understanding cybersecurity and cyber resilience. Until next time, stay curious,